All right, guys, so today you're going to do some things dealing with some laws of logarithms. I provided you with this foldable. Take some time to kind of fill this out before you start the lesson. So today is 4.4, laws of logarithms. Here's your learning goals. We're going to do a lot of logarithms, evaluations, expanding them, and combining them. Also, we'll talk about the change of base formula. Okay, so here's the laws of logarithms. Basically, if you're multiplying any type of logarithm, you're going to end up splitting the a and the b, and you're going to add the two. If you're dividing any type of logarithm, that means that we're going to do subtraction. It's the difference between those logs. And for the last one, number number 3, notice how c comes to the very front of the log, and it becomes c log base a of a. In the next few examples, we're going to look at how these apply. Example 1 says use the laws of logarithms to evaluate the expression. So the first one we're adding, therefore we need to go ahead and multiply these two logarithms together. So we'll get log of 4 times 25. Notice our base is 10. And then the log of 100, if I plug this in my calculator, I get the value of 2. Let's look at B. Notice here we're doing subtraction. Our bases are exactly the same. It's 4. So we have log base 4 of 192 over 3. And then we get log base 4 of 64. Because we can't take 4 and plug it in our calculator for the log base 4, just going to set this equal to a question mark. Rewrite it as 4 to the what power equals 64. Well, we know that 4 to the third power will give us 64. Okay, for letter C, notice here that our base is 2, so I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this negative half to go to the 64th power. So I'll have log base 2 of 64 to the negative 1/2. Then I'm going to go ahead and take 1/2 of the 64 to the negative 1/2, which will give me log base 2 of 1 over 8. From there, I can go ahead and set this equal to the question. 2 to what power gives me 8? Well, I know that 2 to the negative 3 power will give me 1 over 8. All right, so now let's look at expanding and combining logarithmic expressions. I would highly encourage you to use that foldable throughout these first examples and the second example. So we're going to expand these. For example A, it says log base 2 of 2x. When we're seeing multiplication here, that means that we're going to go ahead and add these two exponents. So I'm going to rewrite it as log base 2 of 2 plus log base 2 of x. That is as far as I can expand it. Letter B says log base 2 of a times b squared. So first, if I notice multiplication, I'm going to go ahead and split these two to have log base 2 of a plus log base 2 of b squared. Well, I know as one of my rules, it's the rule number 3, I can take this 2 and move it to the front. So I'll have log base 2 of a plus 2 log base 2 of b. And that's going to be my final answer. Letter C has a lot going on. So we have fractions, we have a base of 10. First, I'm going to go ahead and talk about what goes on up at the top of the fraction. This is all multiplication. So I know that I can rewrite that as log of x to the third plus log of y to the fourth. Then when I look at this division portion, this deals with rule number 2, which tells me I can subtract the log of z, the 6th power. We'll also notice here that you have these exponents. These exponents can apply with rule letter C, rule number 3 for this problem. So I'm going to go ahead and move the 3 to the front and get log 3 of log base 10 of x plus, I'm going to move the 4 to the front, 4 log base 10 of y minus, move the 6 up to the front, and I get 6 log base 10 of c. And this would be my final solution. Okay, now we're going to use the laws of logarithms to combine the expressions. So now we're going to condense it. So notice here I have a 3 in the front for this first logarithm. I'm going to go ahead and move that. So I get log base 2 of a to the third. Same with the next one, plus, I'm going to do log base 2 of b to the fifth, minus, same with the last one, log base 2 of c squared. Then I notice here for this addition one, it deals with multiplication. And then I notice here for this one, it deals with division. So I got divide and multiply. So with these, I'm going to go ahead and pull out the common thing, which is log base 2. So I'll have log base 2 in the front. And I know I'm going to have some type of fraction that deals with this last part, which just says c squared. And then I'm also going to look at the first part, which I know is dealing with multiplication. So I get a to the third times b to the fifth. Okay, so let's look at letter B. Here in the first part, we have the fact that we can move the 4 up. So we'll have log base 10 of x to the fourth power. The same with the second one, we have minus 1/3 log x squared plus 1. I'm going to go ahead and keep that negative there and write it as log of x squared plus 1 to the 1/3 power. Then I can also go ahead and move this 2, so I have plus log of x minus 1 squared. Some key things with this one here is that notice this and this log are addition. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of remind myself with addition is being multiplied. And then this last one here deals with subtraction, so I know I'm going to be dividing by that value. The key thing in here is log base 10. I'm just going to put log out the front. These two on the outside that are addition, they're both positive values, so I'm going to go ahead and put those to the top. So I have x to the fourth times x minus 1 squared. Then I notice that this value here is a negative log. I'm going to go ahead and write it as x squared plus 1 to the 1/3 power. So just some key things to remember with this is that if there is a negative out here in the front, that always tells you go to the bottom of the fraction. That goes for part A as well. It went to the bottom of the fraction. Okay, so the change of base formula is one of those things that you can use to kind of simplify things by using a calculator. So change in base just simply means that you can kind of make up your own base. So this value of A here on top and bottom, you can always make that any type of base value that you want. And your B value goes to the bottom and your X goes to the top. So we always tend to choose base 10 to work with because that's one that you can put in your calculator. They say in the definition that with this log base b of x and it being equal to log base a of x over log base a of b, you pick a new base and the formula says it is equal to the log of the number in the new base divided by the log of the old base in the new base. So that just simply means change your base to 10 and use your calculator. Once you get your answer, round it to the nearest hundred. So in example 4, it says use the change of base formula and a calculator to evaluate the logarithm, round it to the 6 decimal places, and use either a natural or a common log. So with the first one, we'll use the natural log, and the second one, use a common log. The natural log just means let's use ln. So notice here that I have b, which is going to be 3, and I have my other value of x, which is going to be, this kind of looks like a 3, x is going to be 16. So how I rewrite this value here, I'm going to rewrite this using the natural log, which is ln. So I'm going to rewrite it as ln of 16, because that is my x value, over ln of my b value, which is 3. If you were to plug this in the calculator, you should get 2.523719. That is rounded to the nearest 6 decimal places. Part B, we're going to use our common log, which tells us to go ahead and use log base 10. Never really write the 10 there. So again, this is my x value, and this is my b value. So I'll have log of 92 over log of 6. If I use my calculator and plug that in and round it to 6 decimal places, I get 2.523658. So when it uses change of base, always go with your base 10, or if they're asking you for a natural, using the natural, then you're going to use ln as your value. All right, so that's the end of the notes, guys. If you have any questions, please ask them on the next day, probably on Monday. Also, go ahead and start your homework, and that homework is going to be due on the next time that I see you all. Have a great weekend.